Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fit Chicks Chat. My name is Amanda Quinn.
And my name's Laura Jackson.
And today on our episode, we're talking specifically about how to simplify nutrition. But this episode is meant for coaches or aspiring coaches because we're talking about how you can help your clients overcome those three huge barriers when it comes to healthy eating. I think this episode is really important because there's so many barriers, but it seems to be like we've been training clients for how many years now, Laura? 16? 16 years we've
Yeah.
had Fit Chicks Academy running. I was thinking, I'm like, how many years has it been? But even before that, we had clients that we were working with and we had different, we were helping our friends out and family members. And what we've seen is this pattern that has come up over and over and over again of things, these certain barriers that just seem to get in the way of people just changing their overall health and wellness, especially when it comes to nutrition. So, we're going to talk today about how to get over those three big obstacles, which is a lack of time. So, how do I eat healthy when I just don't have time? The costs associated to healthy eating, because we know, with inflation, with all of these costs rising, it's like, how can I eat healthy foods and still stay within my budget? And then the last thing is, where do I even begin? Because as we know, there is so much marketing out there and there's so much BS out there about how to eat healthy and what you should do. And, there's stuff being told to you like this is good for you and et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to talk about all three of those big blocks today.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So, okay. So, objection number one, or the thing that comes up, I find one of the most often is I don't have time to eat healthy. Have you ever heard that, Laura? Like when you're coaching your clients, it's kind of like, yeah, that all sounds amazing. And I want to do this and I want to eat healthy and I want to have this meal plan. But in their minds, the perception is in order for me to do that, I've got to plan a whole day of prep day. Like I have to spend 6 hours in the kitchen on Sunday prepping, or I need to have all this time to be able to even just get myself set up for success.
Yeah, I actually had this conversation with one of our students the other day because she was like, I'm really struggling with this with one of my clients. And she's like, she all she ever says to me is like, I don't have time. I don't have time. I like anytime she gives her a recommendation, whether it be around a meal plan or recipes or meal prepping or whatever it is, she just gets all this pushback. And, you know, you and I have always thought about time. It's an interesting perspective. Like we're always like, if you shift instead of saying I don't have time to this is not a priority for me, it starts you to makes you kind of look at things a little bit differently. So I
Yeah.
was having
It
this
always it makes
conversation.
me feel like I'm like, "Oh, like is
Yeah.
it or is it not?" Like it actually makes me really like question my own like what's the word? But it's like it really makes me question myself being like, "Okay, am I making this a priority or not? Is it really just me causing myself to get in my own way?"
Well, and that's one of the things I was saying to our student. I was like, you know, it's an interesting thing because we can give our clients, right, all of the tools to make healthy eating simpler, quicker, easier, right?
Mhm.
But if they still have that belief system and they can't let go of that belief system that they don't have enough time, that's kind of like the first domino that you kind of have to start to hit down. So some people like to use that to
Mhm.
be like, if you shift that, like, I don't have time to, this is not a priority to me. It's like, ugh, then some people feel a bit of guilt around that, which is not what we want to do either. But it's just around looking at it, okay, instead of, thinking I don't have time, to be able to shift it into, okay, I'm going to make the time. This is a priority to me. And then
Mhm.
giving them the tools in the toolbox, like we're going to talk about today, like the action items, the strategies, the steps that they could do. But if we can't shift that first belief around it, because people will die on that hill. They're like, no, Laura, you don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, I do not have time. And I even said it in
Mhm.
my own life, like not maybe not necessarily now with eating healthy, because it is pretty much, my main focus, but with any like things in my life, like, getting a painting done around my house or cleaning the yard. I'm like, I don't have time to do this. I do not have time. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
actually, this is not my priority. That's what I have to remember. I'm like, I have time to do other things. We all have 24 hours in a day, right?
Mhm. Yeah. No, and that I love that. I love the fact that it really is just about number one, looking at the mindset shift, because if we don't shift the way that we see it, if we don't shift it to this is a priority to me and I'm going to make the time, I'm going to find the time, however I do that, the steps don't matter, the meal plan doesn't matter, none of it matters because it really is about like actually taking ownership of the idea that I'm going to make this a priority. So once we do that, then we have three different actionable items for each of these blocks today that will help you as a coach or help you as an aspiring coach to help your clients actually get through them. So the first thing that I think is really powerful is teaching your clients how to batch cook. And I know we've talked about meal prepping and all these things, but I feel like meal prepping and batch cooking are totally different. When I think of
Totally.
batch cooking, yeah, like meal prepping is like when you have like all
Work.
those little individual containers and you yeah, and you have like the 6 hour day and the Sunday and all these things. And if that works for your client, cool. But again, if time is the issue, that's when it becomes an issue. Batch cooking is when you basically are going to create something that is like a mass amount of something like soups or stews or um like some
Quinoa.
sort of quinoa. Exactly, like you're creating a batch of something and you're pre-chopping up your veggies and stuff and you just have this one thing that you're just consistently going to be eating. Now, I live by this, as you know, Laura. Like I mean, you know, because we even when we live together, I've done this. I've done this my whole life where it's like I make one thing and I eat that same thing all the time. I make chicken all at the same time and then I just throw it into salad every single day and it's pre-made so that my lunches don't suck, but they're also really healthy and they're fast, right? Batch cooking is about just making something so that it's like you take one thing and you make it um you take one thing and then you make it really just like a larger amount. So
Well,
that
yeah,
is the
like
first thing.
I
Yeah.
think of it, sorry to interrupt, but I think of it like
No, no, you're go
in
ahead.
two ways. You can batch cook recipes, right? So this is where, again, people think meal prepping, like you're saying, it's almost like putting together every single meal. Or you can batch cook recipes, which is like making huge pots of chili or soups or stews or things like that, right? Like that's a great way to batch cook too. You can make the recipes and you can freeze them. But I love
Mhm.
the idea of batch cooking, like you were just saying, like you batch cook a bunch of protein or you batch cook a bunch
Yeah.
of quinoa and you just leave it in the fridge. So if in the moment you want to put together a meal, so let's say you want to put together a power bowl, all the ingredients for that require cooking are already done. You just have to reheat it. But you could eat something different at every single meal, right? You've got your pre-cut veggies, then you can then throw together a stir fry quick. Or you got your pre-cooked quinoa and protein, and then you're going to turn that into a power bowl. So it's almost
Yeah.
like there's the batch cooking of like the individual ingredients, which I think is game changing. Like, because I don't
Yeah.
know about you, like I don't like to sit and, sometimes I'll get into a real like cooking bug and I want to make more than one thing at once, but usually I just make one thing. Like I'll make chili and I might freeze some, right?
Yeah.
But it's the whole thing of when you have it almost like all the ingredients are there. I think of it like the salad bar. Remember we used to go to Freshie
Oh
and it
my
was like,
gosh.
and it's got all the
I was just
scoop.
thinking about the same thing.
Yeah. And it's like you can make, if you want to eat the same thing every day, you could, or you can literally just throw together something different. And even too, from a portion control standpoint, I just leave like a half cup measuring, like a stainless steel half cup measuring cup
Yeah.
inside my bowl with either brown rice or quinoa. So it's already there. It's like measured. So as I'm serving, I don't have to think how much am I eating. I'm just like, hey, there's a half cup. Done. That's
It's your
also my
that's
scoop.
I've always done the same thing. My serving utensils are just measuring cups, and it just makes my life so much easier. But also,
Yeah.
it's so funny that you brought up the salad thing because I was just thinking, I'm like, I still remember like every single time I'd go to Freshie or I'd go to like any of those like salad bar places, how that was like my dream. Like I was like, man, if I could just have my kitchen be like this, where it's like I've got the artichokes and I've got the peppers and I've got the
Yeah.
this and I've got this, and it's all laid out, and all I do is throw it together like they do. It's the exact same thing, but they taste so good. My life would be great. And that's all I do. Like if you literally go in my fridge, it's like just stacks and stacks of containers of like pre-cut peppers, pre-cut like tomatoes, like chopped in half. Like everything is just ready. I have like my sauces made and all that. And then I usually have one thing though that I eat every day at lunch. That's just like it's like I have a stir fry that's already pre-made and I eat that, but everything else is ready for my dinners. My dinners take like 10-15 minutes to make. They're fast, but they're all healthy because it's all natural ingredients. So batch cooking is like 100% like the thing I live by for sure.
Well, and it's such a great skill to teach your clients because, again, if they're having that narrative, I don't have enough time to eat healthy,
Yeah.
and you're giving them an actionable step that combats that. Again, if we get over that thought. And the other thing too is a lot of people, if they have tried to eat healthy before, this is what usually happens with clients, right? They've gone on some crazy diet before, which required a lot of cooking and meal prep. So then they associate any time of eating quote unquote healthy with that that time, right?
Yeah.
I've done
Like a
it.
whole
Like
time
we
suck.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, like I
Like,
remember I did the Whole30, right? Which I love the
yeah.
concept of the Whole30, but when I tried to follow their actual plan, I was like, this is exhausting. Like I can't, there was, because everything pretty much is so many ingredients, every sauce, every dip, everything is homemade, which is great too, but it's like next level. So I think it's
Yeah.
just if you teach them, okay, these are some different versions of batch cooking. Like there's batch cooking ingredients, let's make a list of those. There's batch prepping, let's make a list of those. And there's batch recipes, let's make a list of those and kind of hit it from like a three phase thing. Because there's nothing better too than when you actually have stuff in the freezer to just be like, "Ooh, I just have to defrost this and I have dinner that's delicious and
Oh,
healthy and amazing." Right? But
it
it's
is
also
life
great
changing. It's
too.
literally life changing.
Totally. So if you kind of teach your clients that, it starts to make it feel like, okay, maybe I could do this. And that's the first step, right, of change after becoming aware they need to make this change is just, okay, this actually seems possible. Let me try, doing this for 1 week and see how I go. And then moving it into a
For
habit.
sure. Well, no, and so adding on to that, I think the second thing, the second actionable thing that kind of ties into that is helping them build go-to meal lists. And I know we talk about this in the holistic
Yeah.
nutrition weight loss coaching certification, which is the core four, right? Like we have this idea of you have these like doing batch cooking, doing any kind of like meal prepping and thing, it doesn't have to be super fancy. Like I eat the same thing almost every single day for lunch all the time. That never
Mhm.
changes. And then my dinner changes, but I have like 7 things I make. Like my family, I'm sorry, but that's kind of like that's it. Like I know what I shop for every week. I know what I make every week. It pretty much happens on the same day of every week. But it just makes life easier. It makes it convenient and it allows for us to know I'm like, hey, what you're eating, I know is healthy and it's good for you. But it's this go-to meal list. Every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to try a new recipe this week and I'll try it. That's cool. But it gives you this core for so you don't have to spend all this time and energy trying to think, what do I need? Do I have the ingredients? I have to go shop for them. I have all these things. And then it adds so many extra layers for your clients. So go-to meal lists are so key.
Well, and I think too, it's, again, it's having go-to meal lists of like certain like meals that you love or go to always in our holistic nutrition and health coaches club, which is our monthly membership where we give done for you meal plans and recipes. We give coaching tools, tons of great stuff in there to
Mhm.
fast track being able to do all this coaching. But one of the things that I always include are things like how to build your own power bowls, how to build your own power jar in the morning. Because again, it's like when you know the foundational pieces, then you can just plug in the ingredients. So it's always kind of this, you're going to have power bowl for lunch, let's say. But today, instead of having chicken, I'm going to swap out for tofu. Right. So it's
Mhm.
always the same foundation. And then you just have these great proteins and these great, real whole foods in your house that can then be built into that go-to meal kind of structure, which again is such a
Mhm.
great coaching tool because a lot of clients, if they do get bored, then they feel scared to go off quote unquote the plan because they're worried that they're going to gain weight or they're worried that, my coach told me XYZ, but then you also empower them to be like, yeah, and this is how you switch things up if you want to plug in some different things into your go-to meals.
Definitely. And then the last actionable thing too, as a coach, that you can offer to your clients to give them, it's not even permission, but kind of feels like permission, is to be able to use convenience foods. Convenience foods, meaning not fast foods, but foods that allow for speed. Things like frozen vegetables instead of raw veggies, right? Or rotisserie chickens are great. They serve them at most like grocery stores or delis and things like that. But giving them the opportunity to be able to fit those into their plans, because I know for me, my family, we have a rotisserie chicken once a week. It is literally like it is part of our plan. It is part of our core meals because I know for me, I'm like, we eat it for one meal and then I eat it for 3 lunches. Like it literally
Yeah.
just works out really well, but it saves so much time. Could I make it? For sure. But
One
if
of
I
the
do
things that I
this,
always
then it just saves me so much. It saves so much time and energy.
one of the things that I always have for myself, or two, three things I always have for myself and my son, I always have the pre-made hard-boiled eggs in the
Hmm.
fridge in case I need them on like
Same.
if quick lunch, if I want to turn that into add a little bit of Greek yogurt, turn that into egg salad, have that on top of whole grain crackers, or like take them to go if we're going out. I always have hard-boiled eggs. I always have the little tiny single serves of hummus.
Hmm.
So again, something, it's a great protein source to dip in with and healthy fats to dip in veggies, and my son loves it. And then the other thing I always have, I know you don't like it, is the little cans of tuna and olive oil. Always, always, always. And it's like it just again is like we have to think of fast food differently. Fast food should just
Yeah.
mean it makes it easier for you to eat healthy as opposed to, oh, I don't have time to eat, so I'm going to go grab McDonald's. It's like, okay, well, I could also have these grab and go foods available to me as well. And it's reframing that thought around fast food. I think the ultimate fast food is a green smoothie, right? It's
Well,
like
100%.
throw
I
it
was
all
going
in.
to say it is literally the ultimate fast. It is our favorite fast food because I know whenever I'm in a time crunch and I'm like, oh my gosh, my whole day is packed with meetings and I didn't prep something or I don't have any lunch left over, just throw it in a blender and I'm like, okay, I'm satisfied. I've got my nutrients, I've got everything I need, and we're good, right? Like I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to stress. So definitely giving some green smoothie recipes that are not milkshake style recipes to your clients. And I know we share tons of them, not only on social media, but also in our coaches club. Um, Definitely just some great options. And we also have our green smoothie challenge. So if you're a coach and you want to try to do some sort of like a challenge with your clients to get them interested in learning how to make healthy green smoothies, you can check that out as well. But yeah, so that's kind of like our first point. Our first point is really just looking at, the idea of time and how time can be a factor when it comes to healthy eating and helping your clients transition to actually adapting to changing their nutrition lifestyles and their nutrition approach. So that's the first one. Now, the second objection that we often run into as coaches is the cost. And we get it
Hmm.
like 100%. Like cost can be something that feels really overwhelming, especially, in the economy right now with inflation, with food prices on the rise and all of these things. It can feel like, well, how can I afford to eat the chicken and veggies and all of these things? How can I actually do that and still stay within my budget, my family budget? And there are strategies, so that we wanted to share that with you. So there's three strategies again for each of them that we want to share. So the first strategy that I think is really important is focusing on affordable staples.
Yeah.
Things that are inexpensive, that are nutrient dense foods like oats, beans, lentils, eggs, frozen vegetables, canned fish, things that are staples that you can use in multiple different ways, but that do not have those high costs associated to them.
Yeah. I always go to like, so my grocery store, I live in a smaller town, so everything is more expensive because it's the only grocery store. So when I
Mhm.
drive to go to the grocery store, which was like 25 minutes away, I always go to like a Walmart or something to bulk up on things like beans. Like, cause you get 5 cans of beans for $5, right? Great source of protein, great source of fiber, um, very, very filling, very nutrient dense. So I always think too, it's like being a frugal fit chick and looking at food again just through a different lens, because if we think, okay, healthy eating is so expensive, but we're looking at it a lot of times around certain types of food, like maybe it's beef or like certain vegetables. So it's kind of just shifting, okay, well, what foods can I get that are still going to be super nutritionally dense, and then start to shift again. Maybe you're not going for the beef right now, but you're having more beans, or you're looking for cheaper cuts of beef that are lean, but then you're cooking them in a different way, like the instant pot, which can make them more tender. So it's really around kind of just shifting to like the way we look at stuff. But I always have my cupboards packed full of like the staples. That are really easy to throw into healthy food. So always, to me, I always think the S's when it comes to making, healthy meals. It's like soups, stews, salads, stir fries, sheet pan meals. Um,
Yeah.
those are all smoothies. Those are all ways of eating that again you can easily assemble with stuff that that's
Oh, I
in your
love that
cupboard.
though.
The other
The
thing too, I think,
SEOs.
which is really big, is we have so many cool apps now, and I always teach my students to tell their clients this. Learn the apps, learn like things
Mhm.
like the Flip app, and there's so many out there now that are like the coupon clipping apps. Grocery stores price match, right? Again, finding if you find a sale somewhere and your local grocery store doesn't have it, price match it. Find the apps that will show what's on sale that week. Like it's going to take a little bit more effort, but you can sit on the couch and just do your meal plan, see where you're going to shop, see if your local grocery store will price match so you don't have to go all over the place to get stuff. And then also shop seasonally. Like if you're
Uh-huh.
buying things that are in season, they're typically cheaper. So, for example, in the summertime, tomatoes are going to be cheaper, cucumbers are going to be cheaper. In the fall, it's going to be more of the squashes. So, butternut squash, acorn squash, that kind of thing. So, just shifting, what you're eating that's kind of more in season. But then again, really like learn the apps. I always have apps to recommend to clients because a lot of them don't know about these apps and they don't know about how to use them in a way that can help them get deals on, things that would typically be a lot more expensive that are healthy.
Definitely. Yeah, no, those apps are so great. And I mean, there's also different apps too that will give you like certain points and things like that and like
Oh
give you
yeah.
money back. So
I'm
there's
all
there's
about the
just there's
points.
so many. Yeah, I'm all about the points. I will literally
Oh,
spend to a certain amount just to get the
me too.
points.
I'm like, I need those points.
I know. I need the points. I need the gift. I need all the things. So definitely just look at those different options. And then the third thing that you can do from an eating healthy cost too much, where you can help coach your clients through this idea is encourage DIY snacks and drinks. How many
Yeah.
times do you see clients that are like, oh, to eat like, I don't know, trail mix or hummus or things like that. Like it's so expensive to buy these like prepackaged things. They'll buy trail mix. I don't buy trail mix, but I'm gonna say like, like a
It's
bag of trail mix is
expensive.
probably like 15 bucks or 20 bucks
Yeah.
or something like that. Whereas if that was something, it was part of their plan, or it was something that they really want to have as part of their plan, you could be like, okay, create your own. I do that all the time. Like when we go on road trips and things like that for my family, like we're not stopping at the store to go and buy things. Instead, I'm
Yeah.
like pre-packaging all of these. Like I'm like, here's some berries, here's some nuts, here's some cheese, here's this. So we're not having to stop and spend all of this extra money on these convenience foods. So it goes back to the convenience thing too. But from the cost standpoint, it's going to save you a ton. And the
You,
last thing I just want to add into this too, like just this is not on our, it's not part of the three, but it's like number four. And I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
no,
So I
no.
also just want to say too, encourage your clients to really just, it's part of like this DIY snacks, but encourage them as well to eat at home.
Yeah.
Especially like if a costing is an issue, like if you think about it, if you're eating out consistently, like if they're eating their lunches at work all the time and they're not brown bagging it, they're not bringing it themselves, the cost associated to that is so high. Even if they're eating healthy, like, well, I'm getting a salad from the salad bar or things like that, it's the cost associated to that is going to be so significantly high in comparison to having all those vegetables. I would probably argue that the cost associated to buying one of those salads at a salad bar is probably equivalent to buying all those vegetables and having salad for the entire week at your house.
100%. It's even like with drinks too. Like my husband drinks iced
Totally.
tea, and I went and bought him some iced tea, like the pure simple one. It's just
I
iced
know which one
tea.
it is. Yeah.
And there's not a ton of added sugar in it. It's like the ends, whatever. Anyways, it was $7 for a container. I almost died. I was like, I don't want to buy this just for the principle of how ridiculous this is, that it's $7 for iced tea, something that you're just drinking. It has no nutritional value. It's not doing any. And also, I'm like, you could make iced tea at home. Like, it is
Yeah.
not that hard to make steep tea bags. Like,
Yeah.
but it's just, again, it's those things that, in addition to that, guys, too, one of the things that like we talk about a lot in Fitchix Academy is reducing exposure to toxins. And so many of these pre-packaged snacks and foods and drinks, they're all packaged in plastic, right? We're
Hmm.
not buying these in glass bottles. We're not buying. So it's also this additional exposure all the time, constantly eating snacks and packaging. It's all this stuff is coming in contact with our food. So the more things that we can create at home, the less we're also exposed to that. So I know even for me, like when my son, he loves, obviously like any kid, he loves snack food. We don't have a lot of chips and crackers and things like that at home, but I always make when we are having like our treat night or our snack night, I make homemade popcorn and I make it in olive oil with like sea salt on top and or butter, like whole like melt the butter and put it on. But again, it's like real whole, there's no extra additives to that, there's no flavorings, it's just it's in its wholest form. So you don't have to spend a ton on snacks and you obviously too, it's just so much more expensive.
Totally. I know all those prepackaged snacks are just so crazy expensive. I've gotten really into trying to make my own granola bars and like power bites and
Yeah,
stuff like
power
that.
balls.
Oh my God, I've started making those for my household and like we make my one of my daughter's favorite things is our homemade cookies where it's literally just the banana oat cookies, where you just
Yeah.
take your old bananas and you mash them and you just mix it with oats and then it's like now you have a cookie. She loves them. And it's just two ingredients. It's amazing. And it's
I
also
made
using
those with
stuff that before
pumpkin.
throwing it out.
Yeah,
Oh, I've never made them with pumpkin.
I made them with
Gotta
pumpkin
try
and
that.
dark chocolate chips. They were delicious. They're like breakfast cookies. Like they're soft.
Yeah.
I like I could say for me, that's the stuff that I love, like more than like, people would they like Twinkies or baked good. Like I'm like, oh my God, if I had like a baked natural banana oat cookie, I could eat the whole batch. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's
I
like
know.
for me,
I
like my
have to be
kryptonite.
mindful. I know. I
Yeah,
have to be mindful when I make them. I'm like, don't eat them all. They're for mad.
I know.
Because I'm like, no, 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 or else I'll eat them all. But yeah, definitely like this cost savings. Think about it. It's like I'm using old bananas and just some oats that are a staple in my pantry to make these cookies. And I'm gonna make a dozen cookies as opposed to buying, if you go to a store and you buy like one cookie, I don't even know, like maybe is it like $2? I
I
have
went
no
to the
idea. Like those
bakery this
bigger
morning.
cookies.
Yeah, I went to
Okay.
the bakery this morning to get because when we do eat bread, we try to eat sourdough bread.
Yeah.
And so I went and got some sourdough bread and I ended up they had these like the cookies looked amazing and I bought a cookie. It was like a oat flax something, I don't know. And I think it was $4 for this
$3?
cookie.
Yeah.
I was like, we're not buying cookies anymore out. I'm like,
Yeah. We're making the pumpkin oat cookies.
but I
But yeah,
also,
so
yeah,
just
but for that
definitely
I like to
it's not
support
cheap.
local. So I'm like I'm like, I'll
Yeah.
buy a cookie from here.
But I definitely think it's just a mindset shift, right? Of like thinking like, okay, could I make these cookies at home with my staples in my pantry and I can make myself a dozen more. So if I want to have cookies, if I want to have something, it's healthier for me, it's not prepackaged, and it's a cost savings. So
Well, and
that
I
is
also
all
just feel
for
like
yeah.
I know the last thing I just want to say for that, like I
Yeah.
just feel like too, we have to have a mindset shift around needing things to be convenient all the time. Like I just feel like our generation, I don't know our generation, like our society, right? Like it's always about faster, faster, easier, faster. And it's like anything that requires challenge or doing something to get to that result, it's like we don't want to do it. And it's just even kind of, that's why convenience foods that like that's what they market to, right? It's like it's easier. A lot of times too, they'll market like it's cheaper or things like that because they're lower level ingredients. But it's just, I just feel like we have to reframe that and have that conversation with our clients too, because like good things come from effort, right? That's the way that human beings are created. Like we are supposed to go through challenge. We are supposed to, it actually is part of our dopamine center feeling challenged. Like we get a reward from going through overcoming a challenge. So it's just like, I just feel like it's okay to have to make the cookies. Like, make it a fun thing. Don't make it a bad thing. Don't make it a hard thing. Don't make it I have to put the effort in. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like just reframing that word around convenience. I just find it has gone too far. It's like everything needs to be easy. It's like, or maybe we need to put some love into cooking and there's something beautiful about cooking too. So
And just you
just
get to enjoy the outcome of it.
well, yeah. And you're nourishing your body and you're nourishing your family's body. You know what's going into the foods you're eating. Like it's amazing.
Hmm. I agree. Um, okay, and then the last thing we have objection number three, which is I don't know where to start. So this is a big
Yeah.
one too when it comes to nutrition because as coaches, we need to help guide our clients to we have to meet them where they're at and then get them started on a healthier sort of nutrition plan, meal plan, getting them to think and rethink about how they're eating. But there is so much out in the world right now when it comes to marketing of like different diet trends and conflicting evidence and all of the different crazy good marketers out there that are like, it's
Yeah.
now multigrains, so therefore Fruit Loops are great, right? There's all of these
Well,
things that
and
are
the
out there that can
supplements.
cause confusion totally. And I think what it does is it causes our clients to almost feel like paralyzed in that moment of like, I don't even know how to navigate this. I
Mhm.
don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to do this. And so I think our job as coaches, and this is probably one of the biggest, most important things that we can do, is help simplify this, help clarify and simplify this for our clients. We have to help them understand, hey, I get it. It's confusing. It can feel overwhelming, but here is the simplest approaches that we can take to start transforming the way that we eat. And so I think that that's going to be the most powerful thing that you can do for your clients, in my opinion.
Completely. I think, one of and we've talked about the complete and three rule at Fitchix Academy to build your plate from day one. 16 years we've been talking about this. We have not changed our stance on it. We have not changed our
It's still what we live
protein,
and die by.
fiber, and healthy fat. And now it's like people are suddenly coming out being like, oh my gosh, you have to focus on protein, fiber, and fat. And I'm like, we've been saying this for 16 years. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but that's how simple it is. If you focus around real whole foods as the foundation. So I'm picking from the
Mhm.
realest whole food sources. And then on my plate, I have a protein, a fiber, and a fat. Can we just start there? And a lot of times it's so fascinating because so many clients, when they're first starting out and you look at their current eating, they probably are not having those three things in a meal, right? So maybe you don't start with all three of those. Maybe you look at that and just say, okay, this is where we're going to is the protein, fiber, and fat at every meal. And I want you to be able to name them, right, when we get there. But we're just going to start with focusing on protein. We're just going to try to get protein at every single meal. And here's a list of great sources. And let's start there. And then
Mhm.
after they master that, okay, now we're going to start trying to add in some fiber. That's going to be the second thing we're going to do, right? So it's this building up to this place. But those are really it. It's like real whole foods as the baseline, and then protein, fiber, and fat. So it's like chicken, broccoli, brown rice, salmon, Brussels sprouts, and like, well, the salmon's got healthy fat and protein in it. You could just even have those two things. Having a smoothie that has a scoop of protein powder in it, it's got berries for the fiber, it's got chia seeds for the healthy fat. Like, if we just keep following that same premise, and that's actually in our coaches club too, like that is the foundation of all of the recipes and the meal plans that we provide in there too, is they're all built around real whole foods, protein, fiber, and healthy fat at each meal. So it's like, if you
Mhm.
guys want some quick uh, grab and go resources for that, you can go join our Holistic Nutrition Health Coaches Club. We drop them every single month. You get 20 new recipes, you get all this cool stuff. But to me, it's just starting with that kind of build your plate method is a very easy guide. And we also have like a build your own meal plan or build your own plate picture that people can do that too in the Coaches Club.
Yeah. No, but I agree. I think that is the number one simplest way that you can help someone, and it's so easy to remember. That's the thing. The complete and three. I eat every meal as a complete and three. I eat protein,
Yeah.
fiber, fat. Those are my three things. Every meal, every snack has those things. Done. So easy and so simple to like it clarifies the confusion for a lot of clients right away. It's like it's so much easier for someone to just go, okay, that makes sense, right? And if you need to, you just create a little chart. Here's all the protein sources. Here's all of your fat sources. Here's all of your fiber sources, and you give it to them, and you're like, every meal needs to have one of each of these things. Every snack has to have one of each of these things. And as a coach, you've now empowered your client to be able to choose from this. They have this like amazing list, and then it takes away the noise, the confusion, the outside experience of being like, but shouldn't I remove all of this macronutrient? Shouldn't I remove this in order to be
Yeah.
healthy? Shouldn't I do, you know what I mean? It takes away all of that and it just goes, this is your simple approach. That we're going to make this as easy as possible because it doesn't have to be complicated. So that is number
Well,
one. Yes,
and the
go
other
ahead.
thing I just want to say off of that too is like what I was saying around, breaking it up into just working on one of the, if someone's brand new, right? If they're currently eating like a bagel with like jam on it and a coffee, like a double coffee at breakfast, and you're saying, okay, I want you to go to a protein, fiber, and fat. Like for us to say it, it's like, okay, it's easy. And they're like, I don't know where to start. Like, this is what I currently eat. Obviously, they're craving those foods for specific reasons as well, which is probably their hormones are out of balance. Maybe they have some sort of, food addiction to them as well. But it's just starting with those small attainable goals, right? So if you just start focusing on really mastering one of those little areas, then they start to build up confidence. And that's something that is really important from a coaching standpoint. We as coaches want to give our clients everything at once when they're starting, right? And if they
Mhm.
don't know where to start, if you try to shift everything, they're not going to do it. So, but we also want to get momentum. So they've got to be working on something that they feel like they can be mastering to then again build that confidence, and they'll start to feel better. And then as that starts to feel better, they're like, hey, wait a second, I feel better. Now I can do the next step and the next step and the next step. And then you can help to celebrate their progress along the way. So it's just, again, it's the way in the coaching conversation to help them be able to move through um, the goals and stay focused to it, as opposed to just being like, okay, this is what you need to do. I don't know where to start. Okay, do this. It's like, well, how do I do that? We'll just start
Yeah.
with, again, chipping away at building those meals. And that's like the easiest place to start.
For sure. And that was actually the second thing, right? From an actionable standpoint, from a coaching thing, is like, is helping them create those small habits, those small wins, have attainable goals, get them started, do one thing, and just, and slowly, and meet them where they're at and slowly build on it. Because if you try to do it all at once, it's going to overwhelm them. And then I think the last thing that we really wanted to stress that really helps your clients and from a coaching standpoint is going to really help them have a mindset shift around nutrition and healthy eating is how to emphasize adding in and not restricting. How many people have you coached in your lifetime? And Laura, this question for you, like, how many people have you heard that are like, as soon as you say the word diet, they're like, ugh, I don't
Oh
want to
yeah,
go
they're
on a
like,
diet. They
I
think
don't,
instantly, it's like,
I don't believe
I'm
diets.
never gonna give it up. And then what happens in our brain as soon as we say, well, I'm going on this Atkins diet and I'm not gonna eat carbs again. All day, all you think about is all the carbs you want to eat. Like it
Yeah,
literally is what happens in our brain is like, I can't have it, so I want it. And then I'm gonna crave it and I'm gonna push, and it's gonna become this battle in my mind. And it's gonna become this willful battle of like, do I have the willpower? Can I push through? And then it becomes such a negative experience. It becomes like this terrible experience for your clients. Could we shift the way that they see it from not restricting, but instead we are adding in? We are shifting to adding in nutritious foods. We are not taking away, we are adding in. And when we shift it, that's when it becomes, there's no like, it doesn't feel like a battle. It doesn't feel like a negative experience. It doesn't feel like we're on the battlegrounds being like, I want it, I can't have it, I want it, I'm craving it, I can't have it, and now I hate my life because I can't eat the things that I want. And I feel like I'm just constantly in this negative space, in this whirlwind, on this diet that I'll probably do for 2 weeks. And I'm going to push my willpower through it. And then at the end of 2 weeks, I'm going to jump onto a different diet because that one didn't work
yeah.
because our willpower only lasts so long.
That's why we always teach the concept, the coaching concept of add, swap, replace. So it's this idea
Yeah.
of like adding that food in at first just to start to introduce it to your diet, like adding in protein, even if you're just, so we'll use the example of like, they're having the bagel with jam. So maybe instead of having it with jam, they're having it with a protein. So even if they're moving that to like a natural peanut butter, or having it with like an egg sandwich versus, sweet, like it's adding something in, or adding in a green smoothie with that, and then eventually it's swapping it. So could you swap? So maybe instead of doing a white bagel, you could swap for a high fiber whole grain bagel. And then the third thing is to fully replace. Then you've basically shifted that habit. So now you're into the new one where you've replaced that original food with something more nutritionally dense. And it's
Right.
like a really simple way of starting to do it. So you're not like, oh my God, I've got to give it up. At first, you're just adding. And then, what are some swaps I can do? What are some things I could swap
Mhm.
out? So instead of having, soda, I'm having sparkling water, or whatever it is, that you could just do swaps a couple times a week. And then we start to move towards it. So
Yeah.
it's always just making
No,
it like a building block. I just always think about the building blocks.
I honestly, it's so funny because like as we're doing this, and I know I'm so biased, but as we're talking through this episode today, I'm like, I love our rules that we've created so much because they're so simple. Like the complete and
Yeah.
three, like the add swap replace, like these things that just they're concepts that, in our holistic nutrition weight loss coaching program, we teach them, we teach you how to coach in them, but there are things that as a coach right now listening, you can take these and implement with these your clients like today. It's not, it doesn't have to be hard. And I think that what we've done over the years is we've made eating healthy really challenging. We've made it challenging
Yeah.
from a time perspective, saying, well, you need to have six different grains and you need to have this and you need to create this insane meal in order for it to be healthy. Or you have to go to Whole Food stores or health stores to get these special ingredients. So we've made it really hard from a time perspective. We've made it expensive, meaning like, oh, well, you have to have, you know, you have to have beef tenderloin and you have to eat asparagus with it and all these things.
And
And
everything that has to be grass fed and it has to be, organic and it has to be this, or you're doing something terrible to your body, which again, a lot of the food labeling, we don't even know if that's actually true. The food that we're getting is actually those things.
yeah,
So it's just, I know it's a lot. It's a lot. And I
we've made
think
it hard.
we've made it really hard. And I think that, it's like I was saying at the very beginning, I really kind of think the first piece is just looking at your current thinking or your client's current thinking around healthy eating. Like if you start to have that conversation at the beginning, you're going to see like these are the three blocks that we see and the three main things you need to coach through. But
Yeah.
something else might come up, right? Like but it's also dismantling that belief system because if they are constantly thinking, I don't have time to eat healthy, they will not eat healthy. Or I don't know where to start, they will never start, right? So we have to help them be able to shift that belief that it is possible.
Hmm.
And just even opening that up to being like, it doesn't have to be hard. But it's just, again, this is the way that marketing really thrives, right? They throw rocks at the other options. So it's like, of course, my diet is better than the keto diet. I'm going to throw rocks and tell you why the keto's wrong. Then keto says, oh no, my diet's better. So I'm going to go throw rocks at paleo and tell you why that's wrong. And then as a consumer, you're just like, wait a second. I thought someone told me that keto was right. And now keto's saying this is wrong. And, and then you're just left confused and overwhelmed. And you do nothing. So it's just like
Yeah.
going back to these core basics and simplifying, like shutting off listening to all the noise and just focusing on these core basics. And honestly, this is all you need to start to change your health or your client's health.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. With that, we are going to wrap up for today. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Of course, if you are listening right now, you are a coach, you're an aspiring coach, you're interested in getting certified with us and joining to learn more of our skills, more of our tools, more of our coaching, as well as becoming a certified holistic nutrition weight loss coach. Check it out. You can check out all of our certifications at fitchicksacademy.com. You can also read more about our done for you materials, our holistic nutrition coaches club. So you can check it all out there. If you have any questions, you can email us info@fitchicks.ca. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you again next week on Fit Chicks Chat. Bye.